Hello and welcome to episode 53 of the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike, what's going on?
I've been better. Nah, it's okay. Do you know when you travel with your boots and you check them into the airplane and then you come back to your home country and all the handling personnel at the airport have decided to be on a strike, so they can't handle your luggage and your boots are lost for God knows how long.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that's basically what happened to me. And I've never tried that before with boots. You know, it's okay with your toiletries and your clothes and stuff, but when it's boots and the laptop and stuff like that, that hurts. So I'm kindly waiting for these people to get their act together. But otherwise, I'm great.
No, that actually happened to me when we went back from Japan. They lost my luggage, which had all my clothes and all my boots that I had in there. And then I got it back like 3 days later. They delivered it at like midnight. It was very weird, but I did get it back.
You did get it back. That's the most important thing. But to kind of soothe the pain, we got a few releases, which was good because then I could focus my attention on those. And of course, we are going to discuss those releases in today's episode of the Boot Nerds podcast. But before we get started, if you enjoy what we do, have enjoyed what we've done so far, leave us a like on the video so we can see that we're doing something right. Also, if you don't like it, you can leave a thumbs down. Or you can also just click away right now if you don't want to watch it. That's up to you. But also, of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click on those little bell notifications to get a little ping every time we release a podcast every single week. But Josh, let's talk. What should we start with?
There's only one thing to start with. It's the version of the boot that everyone has been waiting for. The worst kept secret in the football boot industry.
Oh, yeah.
The low-cut version of the Predator Mutator 20.1. Which is...
Wow.
I mean, I said it in my video. It's hilarious that everyone is super excited about a football boot where the main feature is not having a feature of another boot.
It's actually a little bit crazy, yeah. When you think about it, it's the exact same boot as the normal 20.1, but the only thing is that you actually pay 220 euros, which you also do for this. But people freak out about the fact that it has less on it. There's just a different color. Of course, the big difference is the fact that it has a different color construction. It's lower, but it also has a little bit of a different heel construction. And for those of you people who know the Copa 20.1, 19.1s, you will also realize that that it kind of looks similar. And fun fact, this is engineered by the same man who did Copa. So that's a fun little fact for you guys to show off with if you have any friends that would be even remotely interested in that fact. But yeah, otherwise it's the exact same boot. So what you and I have been freaking out about is the fact that the color is gone. And how awesome is that on a scale from 1 to 13.5?
14.7.
Exactly.
I think visually, like you can make all the complaints about the regular 20.1 and how it's not as cool looking as the 20 plus. But when I look at this one with the low cut design, to me, it's not even a problem. I obviously the 20 plus is still a lot more extreme in its overall visual effect, but I think that the low cut design still looks really, really good on this boot. It's clean, it's simple, it feels like the football boot I've been waiting for ever since the Predator line first went away.
Right. So ever since the Instinct.
Yes.
Okay. But why is that? Because this is a significantly different boot to the Instinct.
It is very different in a lot of ways. I mean, for me, the rubber elements are what makes this boot. Regardless of whether or not you get the laceless one, the mid-cut one, or the low-cut one, it doesn't really matter. I think you're getting a very similar experience from all of them in terms of that extra grip on the ball. But I just think that the aesthetics of this boot, it feels like... I think one of my main complaints when it comes to collars and football boots, ever since it became popular back in 2014... is that I think it got to a point or is currently at a point where maybe things are getting a little bit out of hand and we're we're doing unnecessary silly collars for the sake of visual effect, and there's not really any benefit to it. Where this is like the new Predator concept with no other nonsense happening, and that's what I like about it.
But for me, that is also what the Predator is about. Like you said, the fins, the rubber fins, that they are the Predator. Without that, it would be, I think we've said it before, I've also said it in my Unisport videos, that, without the fins, it would just be another knitted textile boot. It's just, like, then it wouldn't be that spectacular. But by giving us the rubber fins that actually has the same, powerful, grippy, sticky sensation that we got off on the boots of old, and this low cut sensation, it just, the silhouette looks right, it feels right, and to me, this is the real return of the king, if we can talk about it like that. Because yes, it feels like the first real Predator since the Instinct, but it also feels more like a Predator to me than the Instinct. Which I know is a bit of a bold claim, and you probably disagree, but because it has, I don't know, it has that streamlined feel to it as well that I didn't really feel the Instinct had back in the day. I know I said, and a lot of people said, it was nice to have a bulky, powerful Predator back. But I just felt it got a little bit too chunky and heavy for its time, and this is where I feel you managed to merge that nimble, tiptoeing, streamlined sensation from modern boots with the Predator elements on this one, and that's something I really like. Take the Accelerator, take the Precision, for instance. Back in the day, of course, they were heavy boots, but they were also relatively streamlined. They looked sleek. They looked very elegant, and I think they've captured this in the low cut Mutator as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that obviously the grip carries over from the LZ and the Instinct models. And this really does feel kind of like a logical evolution on that original Instinct concept, done in like you said, a much sleeker, more streamlined way, which I think I'm really happy about. What I think is interesting about this product and even the new Phantom Vision 2 from Nike is that it almost seems like the new trend is going back to low cut, which was never a feature, but now it's coming back as a feature again. And if you look at the lineups from all the brands, look at the Adi lineup right now. You now have the X is low, the main version of the Nemesis, which I still think is the 19.1. I mean, Messi is wearing them after all. That's a low cut boot. They still offer the Nemesis 19 Plus and the Predator 20 Plus as mids, as like high cut boots. Beyond that, almost everything else is low. And then if you look at the Nike lineup, do you really consider that Phantom Vision 2 to be a mid? Personally, I don't. It doesn't really have that vibe about it. It's pretty much just a Superfly now.
Yeah, you're right. It's only the Superfly that's really a proper mid cut, right? Is the 20 Plus, are we moving into like proper high cut territory now?
I mean,
it is.
I mean, it's cut way higher than pretty much anything else. I actually was just scrolling through pictures because I took a bunch of pictures when the Preds came out because there's just so many crazy angles to get of it. And I didn't post it yet, but I plan on doing it. I had a side by side with the new Predator 20 Plus and the Prime Knit FS. Remember those?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there, right?
I was gonna say, that must be the ambition of Adidas, slowly, increase the height of the collar until they reach the Prime Knit FS height, which was absolutely insane. It's gonna end up like one of those Wellingtons, the rubber boots.
Yeah,
absolutely mad.
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast before. We might have, but I think it's very interesting to me how it was such a big deal to have the off-colored sock tape and you had to have matching colored sock tape, but now they can make these boots that are cut well above the ankle in a contrasting color, and that's not a problem now. Very weird to me how they come up with these rules.
Yeah, that's a point I think it's probably the best not to go into that discussion because I think there's a lot of politics and a lot of money involved. But then, of course, you have an opinion until you get a new one. That's a typical Danish saying. At least. But so what's the verdict here? Because, in its essence, it is just a low-cut version of the 20.1. But I think from what we've talked about, at least, we can both agree that it is also a significantly better boot, for us at least, is a boot we prefer, right? But why, Josh? Why is this better, in your opinion, than the 20.1 and potentially also better than the 20 pluses? Because we both prefer the 20.1 mids to the 20 pluses, right?
Look, I can't say wholeheartedly that if I could only wear the 20.1, I'd be like super unhappy about it, because I really like that boot. If this didn't exist, I'd be wearing that 20.1. So let me make that very clear. I don't think that the 20.1 necessarily offers anything that is better than the mid-cut version of the boot. For me, what I think puts it over the edge, it's the visual aspect, which has nothing to do with performance whatsoever. But I'm still of the opinion, and I think you might be with me on this, that a low-cut football boot still looks the best. It looks the cleanest. It looks the sleekest. The thing about collars is that if it's not going to offer me any kind of true performance benefit or offer some kind of a feature that makes it worth having that collar, I just would rather it not be there. So for me, this is just how this football boot is supposed to be, and nothing more.
Right, I can definitely take that. For me, it's all about the feeling. I simply feel more nimble in this because of the fact that I'm not aware of anything touching the lower part of my ankle bone, and that's just it's a very personal opinion. I realize that, and I think there will be a lot of people who might as well. You could slap them in this, and they wouldn't really, as you said, they wouldn't be mad about it if they didn't know about this. The fact that this existed, because the 20.1 is a very good boot, but I just prefer the slightly more free sensation of a low cut boot. And as you say, it simply looks better. Yeah. I'm gonna put it out there. For me, this is the best Predator since the Adi Power. Oh
yeah, I agree 100% with that. That's totally accurate. I don't even think that's an opinion that you can argue with, honestly. What we should also mention though is that it's not. Aside from the low cut, across the top of the foot, the tongue area or the one piece enclosure, it is a different weave of prime knit.
True.
So this is not one of those football, because I know a lot of people have taken the 0.1 models of Adi boots and pulled the laces out and worn them as laceless boots. This is not designed to provide any kind of extra tension without the laces on its own. So keep in mind that if you're buying the low cut version, you're going to be wanting to use those laces.
Exactly. And that's just, would anyone take the laces out of this, you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
But yeah, for me, the strongest boot in the Mutator 20 lineup, simply because it is the more balanced boot. I get a free sensation around the ankle. It frankly looks better, and it feels right. It looks right, and it ticks all the boxes for me. I'm really happy about this. So talking about scoring the boots, last time we were pretty generous with the 20.1 mids. What would you give the lows?
What did I give the mids? Like an 8.5, I want to say.
Yeah, we gave him an 8.5.
8.5. So you know what? I'll give it the extra half point and say it's a 9 out of 10 because I like it that much. This is, for me right now, I would think I'm happy and confident in saying it's my personal favorite boot to wear right now.
Okay, I probably wouldn't go that far, but I would say a strong 9 is definitely what it deserves, both based on looks and especially performance. It's just a brilliant football boot. And what would I need to take it all the way up? I don't really know, but it just doesn't feel like, it's not a 10, it's not a 9.5, but it's a very, very good football boot. And as you say, it would probably slide into my top 3. At the moment to wear.
Oh yeah, easily top 3. I really like it. And again, these new Predator models, there is no alternative to them right now. So
no
to me, that's what's very special about this, and something that we don't see often enough in the modern boot industry anymore.
And that's what I think is beautiful, is that, finally you have another truly unique boot out there. The Predator is back. This like dual race between the Merc and the Pred, that is properly back now, and that's something I really agree, because otherwise you have your speed boots are everywhere, controlled boots are everywhere, but this is something truly unique that is back, and I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that, because it's not just back to be back, it's actually back to work. and to please people. And I think it's gonna, we're gonna see it being really, really popular. So yeah, 9.5. That's actually 9.5. That's too much. 9. Yeah, easy Jay. Now, the low cut Predator wasn't the only thing to drop. We also we saw a new pack from Mizuno called Victory Gold, and it is gold. It's also white. We have the Morelia II here in white, looking fresh. I would say fresh and sharp. We have the Regula, and bear in mind that this is not my size. As you can see, it's almost bigger than my head. That's because my my size Regulas are in the bags that are at the airport. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But this for me is a killer.
Yeah, that's a really, really good colorway. You just recently posted on Instagram those T90s, the Italy T90s.
Yep.
And they remind me so much of that Nike pack, which, again, not a bad thing at all. The dark blue and the gold combo is pretty nice. Yeah, you got to go get them. We need to see them.
Right. Keep talking.
Those are sick.
There we go.
Really cool.
There we go. Yeah, very cool. It wasn't actually on purpose that I posted these. I just got them the day before they launched. I really, really, really like these. Still a fantastic boot, the Regula 3. Every time I go back to wearing it, I'm like, I should wear this more because it really is a truly, truly fantastic leather boot. And speaking of fantastic leather boots, of course, we had promised you to talk more about the brand new Marella. It's not the Morelia 3, as you would think, but Mizuno basically gave it a rework. They looked into how they could improve the Marella, and as they say, only the Marella can improve on the Marella. So it's only the Marella that can beat the Marella, which was pretty cool. Of course, the first thing they launched was the 35th, which is not this one, it's actually this one. The 35th anniversary edition of the boot that kind of introduces to that iconic OG Marella colorway that you would associate with a Marella, right? Black, white, and red. But what they did here was, and there's tons of little technical stuff. I'm not going to go through everything because you're probably going to be bored. But what they did is that they slimmed down the last a little bit, so it's not as wide anymore. They slimmed down the opening, the mouth of the boot. I have the old one here that you can kind of see. It's a little bit. It's a little bit slimmer. They also changed the tightness of the heel, so it hugs your heel a little bit better, holds it better in place. And also they went in to change the heel counter. So instead of using what is in fact a resin-based heel counter, which is a little bit flimsy and soft when you touch it, they made in and they went in, and made a much harder molded plastic heel counter to simply give you a stronger, more supportive lockdown in the heel. Feels really, really good. They made the tongue considerably smaller, and then they also, and that's a big deal, they actually went in and changed the leather. So the old leather is something that they call a Scotch Guard kangaroo leather, which is basically there to give you some water repellency properties and stuff. But what they found was that the Scotch Guard treatment would wear off relatively quickly, and then it really wouldn't matter. So they went in with a washable leather instead. And the thing is with this is that it's the same leather that they use on the Monacido, which is one of the cheaper models. So they thought, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So they actually went in and took the same leather, but they tanned it in a different way. So it's actually significantly softer. So when Mizuno tested this, the guys testing, they couldn't feel the difference in hand, on feet, anything, and I haven't been able to either. And trust me, I have been trying to, just to say, but I could, but I can't. It's and it's a better fitting Morelia on the Victory Gold. You get no tongue. It just feels more sleek, and that was one of my primary concerns with the original or with the previous Morelia, was that it did feel a little bit too chunky, old school-ish to me. With the fit that was a bit more sloppy than I'd like, and they've fixed a lot of that in the new one, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think you get pretty clear, if you're familiar with the classic Morelia silhouette, you can definitely tell that this has been slimmed down ever so slightly. It's very easy to see. But it's very amazing because I think a lot of people would look at that boot and say, oh, it's just a plain old leather boot, nothing happening. But the amount of little details that were taken into account to make that final product is really what it's what makes a made in Japan Mizuno boot worth the crazy price tag. Let's be real, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like to compare that to a classic Copa Mundial. And honestly, a Copa in comparison to that boot is a dinosaur. Like, not to say that there's anything wrong with wearing classic Copas, but the Mizuno Morelia really has that old school look, but has so much more tech and modern elements to it than I think a lot of people realize.
And they have updated this so many times now, which they haven't done to the Copa. So they've actually used all their modern know-how and technology to do this and to improve it for 2020. But still give you that OG vibe. So for me, this is like comparing a Lamborghini to a Volvo. I mean, a Volvo is also a good car, but it's just it's nowhere close. The dinosaur analogy was also pretty good though. Why do I always try to go into the whole car analogy thing when you are the car boss?
I don't know.
I only
Jay.
end up looking stupid. but it's like it's a nice little refresh, and I think people out there have been asking for it for a good reason, because it is actually really exciting that the best OG leather boot out there has become even better and more modern. And I'm for one gonna wear this a lot more, and particularly this with the smaller tongue. That is gonna be nice. It just look at it. Yeah,
I really like. There's something to be said about a lot of modern boots in terms of how they feel and perform. But I really like the Morelia. Like that's a football boot. I haven't tried them yet. I haven't even held them in my hands yet, but I'm very excited to give those a go because I think visually that is one of the cleanest looking boots that you can buy right now. And again, it's so no nonsense. That's what I think a lot of people don't realize growing up. Like how many 12-year-olds are out there have no idea how comfortable a football boot can actually be. Because these knitted boots and they're great and all. But from a pure comfort standpoint, something like this just can't be beat.
I totally agree with you. Funny thing, I actually made a top 5 comfort video for Unisport, and I gave the Hall of Fame comfort prize to this because there's just no way you're gonna beat this ever in terms of like classic plush, pillow-like comfort around your foot. It's just the best. Period.
For sure.
To me, at least. I know some people out there will disagree, but it's just like I hold this in very high regard. So good job, Mizuno. I think the pack is cool. It's always easy to do white and gold and make it look great, but you never go wrong with the silhouette of a Morelia Neo 2, and I'm definitely gonna rock this. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, great pack. I mean, Mizuno does a good job. They never overcomplicate the colorways, I would say.
Okay, who am I now?
Okay.
Yeah, great pack. Yeah.
I'm like the low key hype man in this podcast. That's my role.
With a big fat line under low key. But yeah, okay, then it's much more impactful when you get impressed. So that's lovely. But Josh, we're rambling on. You have some questions for us today, I imagine.
I do. I have a number of questions. We'll start with a question from Birdie Doonerwind. That is actually the name here.
Name.
Great name. Hi guys, if you have an issue with the lack of lockdown with the Predator 20 Plus, why don't you try the old school way of tying laces like in the 70s, early 80s, and probably earlier where laces were looped around the underside of the sole plate of the boot. And why not use SR4U laces, which obviously there would be no other way to do it.
But that would be a solution in itself, just to use SR4U laces and,
yes,
you can basically just put them on top of the boot and you get the lockdown. That's
absolutely.
what I've heard, at least.
That's exactly how it works. If you want to just tape them along the outside, it improves the boots tenfold.
Absolutely.
But I've actually heard this suggestion a lot, and it's not something that I've ever tried. I might do it just because it is kind of an interesting idea. But do I think it would work? Yes. It would work to a certain extent. It wouldn't solve all of the issues, but it definitely, I think, would stop your heel from coming up a little bit.
But wait, we're talking Predator like 20 plus, right? So he wanted to, actually just take laces and just tie them around the boot.
No.
Like,
so what he's talking about, I'm sure you've done this with a classic pair of Copas, but you would tie the laces and then you would loop them around the back heel studs. So like
and
then tie them back across the top of the foot. So basically you wouldn't be attaching them to any lace holes. You would just loop them across the top of your foot, loop them underneath the heel stud so they're kind of hooked in, and then tie it on top of your foot. So you just you've basically created this like containment strip across the top of your foot at like a 45-degree angle going into the back of the heel.
I've never done that. I have never done that.
You've never done that? Okay.
No. Okay.
Well, I've never personally, like it's never been a phase of mine, but I've seen people tie their Copas like that before.
Okay.
I think it could work on a laceless boot, to be honest. It wouldn't even necessarily have to be a Predator. The issue would be that you'd have think about how thin a lace is and how much pressure you'd be creating in that one spot. It'd probably be really uncomfortable.
Most likely, yeah.
Is what I think the issue would be. And I think it's a level of effort that's just buy the 20.1 if it's that big of a deal for you.
I was going to say, just get this one. It's not that big of a difference. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually going to give credit for the idea because it's a good idea of thinking, okay, I have this problem. How can I solve it? Let's do that. And it's actually, I guess it sounds like a viable solution. It just sounds like a lot of work, to be honest. But hey, if it works, I mean, I would happily see a picture of someone actually doing this. So if anyone wants to tag us on Instagram or something like that, hit us up because I'd love to see it.
I'm going to make it happen. Don't worry. I'll make it happen.
Okay, great job.
Cool. Question here from Dago353. He asked, would you like to see Adidas do something like the Nike TechCraft Pack with their boots, or do you think the TechCraft Packs were unsuccessful?
Yes, but also yes. I do think that the TechCraft Packs have been a little bit unsuccessful because I feel like that every time they do a TechCraft Pack, some of the boots are really nice, and then others, if not all of the boots, 2.0, they just suck. And they haven't really put too much effort into it, it seems. With the most recent one, the Venom, it just wasn't up to standards. The Vapor was amazing. But the Venom, So I feel it's been a long time since we actually had a successful TechCraft Pack all across the board. And I don't think, have we ever had it, Josh? Have we ever had a completely successful TechCraft launch?
No, I don't think so. I think the very first one, if there was one that's going to be a success, it was that one.
That was on the low cuts. It was amazing because they basically just took and replaced the entire upper except for the inner line. And they replaced that with leather, but on the high-end models, they simply just slapped leather on top of the synthetic and it didn't work.
Yeah.
But coming back to the question, yes, I would love to see Adidas do that. Imagine an X, maybe even X99.1 with, like a fusion skin upper. Oh my God. Predator, fusion skin. Make it happen. Obviously the Copa can't really be any nicer than it already is. But Nemesis, would it work? Would I want to see that with leather? It could happen. I don't see how they would make that whole structural thing that the tape has with leather. But I guess something that could look like a Nemesis could potentially work. But hell yeah.
Yeah, I like you're right in saying that the problem with all the TechCraft Packs Nike have done is that some are really good and some are subpar to just, why does this even exist? And you're right. I think that with Fusion Skin, what we've seen them do on the Predator Archive and what we know they're capable of with the Copa series right now, I don't think that a leather version of the new Predator with the Demon Skin grip is out of the realm of possibility. I definitely could see them doing that. But yeah, like a leather version of the Nemesis, it doesn't need to exist. I don't want it to exist. I'm not curious about how that would feel. It's just a design that was clearly not ever meant to be made out of any material other than what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And the demand for a leather X, I don't know. I will mention that Adidas has done this before back in, what was it called? Was it called the Spacecraft? Or... They called it something craft. It was gold. Remember those?
They did the Ace and the that was the X
16
plus. Yeah, and that was it wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't good.
No, that was just Adidas chopping off the toe and making it leather.
Yeah, but what I want to see now is now that they have fusion skin, they can do stuff that they couldn't do before. So I want to see fusion skin on the X. It would be nice to get like, imagine like an X version to have, Morelia Neo 2 vibes. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, a Pred fusion skin, it has to happen one day. Someone will have to answer if they don't make it.
Yeah. I think the only issue with the way Adi is doing fusion skin is knowing what I know and knowing what both of us know on the manufacturing side of things. I think it's a very expensive way to implement leather on a football boot for a one-off limited edition. And I think what a lot of people don't realize, like that Predator Archive as an example, I know the retail is $350, which is a crazy ton of money for a pair of football boots. But given how many they actually made, I would highly doubt that Adi made any money on those at all. I guarantee you they lost money because there's so much happening. It's so complex. There's so many little bits. That was a very, I would venture to guess that that's from a manufacturing standpoint from all of the big brands, possibly the most expensive football boot ever made.
I think you might be right. I was just going to say that it can only be the most expensive boot ever manufactured from like a production cost level, because there's so many, so many elements where you need to make the molds and you need fusion skin. And it must have been living hell making that boot. So, whoever sat down and, matching up the elements, making it... This is why we're not engineers on foot, at least me.
So I think that's the explanation, though, I think, as to why some of these Nike TechCraft packs have been somewhat unextraordinary, because they only have so much budget to make them all feasible to actually sell and still kind of make a profit on them, because they know they're only going to sell a limited amount. And we've seen this from Nike in that they don't do TechCraft packs anymore. They just do kind of one at a time and see how it goes.
But then just don't do them. It's not very Nike to go out and say, okay, we're just going to half-ass this and see what happens. It's probably going to sell anyway. No. But Josh, you're right. It probably doesn't make too much sense from a money-making perspective, but I think it would be great storytelling, especially for the Predator.
Yeah,
I think
the Pred is the one I want to see.
Who would lose their minds, myself included, if it happened. So please.
For sure.
If it happens, we will take gladly 10%. You're welcome, Adidas.
Cool. Okay, I got it. This next question is for you, Jay, and I'm very curious to hear your answer on this. Question asked by Long Tran. He asks, Regula 3 or Predator 20.1? I was expecting the long pause.
Why this question?
It's a good one.
It's a difficult question. I think right now I'm actually contemplating which boot should I wear tonight for training, and I think if I had to go out right now and choose, I would go with the low Mutator 20.1, and that is simply from the perspective that I feel it is a little bit sharper, and I like thin, sharp, responsive boots than the Regula is. From a touch comfort perspective, the Regula is amazing, but I would probably take the 20.1s. But it's kind of asking, would I go Vapor or Regula? It's kind of what is my mood that day? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they're both excellent options. You can't go wrong, but also like extremely different football boots. And I find your answer, I was expecting you to answer the opposite, to be honest. And I only say that knowing that you wear different boots all the time.
Yeah.
Which impresses me, because that is something that when I'm testing stuff, obviously I'm forced to do it. But if I wasn't testing new product, or when I'm not testing new product, I try to wear the same boots consistently. I like that feeling of familiarity with a specific football boot. And with these new Predators, like we've talked about, they really do, there's almost a learning curve to them because of how much extra grip they have over, especially in comparison to something like a Regula, which almost has a slicker feel to the upper. I don't know. I'd have a very hard time training in Preds one day and then the next day wearing something else, because it's just such a drastic difference in terms of how the ball comes off your foot.
Maybe that's the reason I suck so much.
That's a good.
But let me be real. I would probably take the Pred right now. But if I had to buy one of the two pairs, obviously the Pred would be more. It would be cheaper. But I think I would actually, playing it safe, I would buy the Regula, because the Regula is more. It's a more all-round boot. And I think over time, if I could only have one boot, I'd probably take the Regula, because it has a little bit. Who knows if I got sick of the grip one day. And the Pred is a tight boot. It's comfortable, but it doesn't come close to the Regula. So yeah, it's a bit of a vague answer, and I realize that. But having the boots that I have, Pred 20.1 low, if I had to buy one boot, Regula.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you 16-year-old Josh working at a soccer store he'd probably buy the Preds. And then he'd still really want the Regula, so he'd spend his next paycheck on the Regula and just have both.
That's the right
that
answer.
would have been my move for sure.
That is the right answer.
Okay, I got another question from. Why is this putting my questions out of order? Lovely. Nope. Oh, 1 second. My computer is resorting my questions here. Okay, here's a question from Kirthan CR710. Which is the best Adidas football boots right now?
Before I say anything, because I had to say it, at least your computer is good at organizing. You could learn from it.
Oh, that's good.
But the best Adidas boots right now, I would say, how many do I have to mention?
Let's do a top three. Top three Adi boots right now.
Top three Adi boots. 20.1 Pred low, Copa 20 plus, X 19.1.
I'm exactly the same list. Perfect. Great answer. Okay, here's a question from RD7. This will be the last one. Okay. Hey, Jay and Josh, don't you think before cleats were made of more premium, expensive, don't you think, it's not written properly, but do you think that back then cleats were made out of more premium, expensive materials? Older Predators come to mind, even older Mercurials with carbon fiber and glass fiber sole plates. Now they're all socks. The funny thing is that they were less expensive than today, except the first Superflies. Also, I have to say I missed Asian Mercurials. They were far better in my opinion. I'm interested to hear your opinions, maybe into the next episode. Great podcast, by the way. Thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Big love. Look, it's a lot of questions in one. So let's start with the beginning and talk, materials versus price. Because yes, you're right that the boots back then were cheaper. There is there's a very good explanation for that, and one is like the manufacturing costs. They try to innovate all the time. That research is very expensive. Of course, it was also expensive back then, but it is really expensive. And, there's simply more emphasis on it. Marketing budgets have just exploded, gone through the roof. And then there's inflation. So,
But that's what I was going to say, Jay. If you factor in the inflation over the last 20 years, are football boots really more expensive? I don't think they are.
No.
But I don't think they are.
Would it be a 100% rise? Has inflation really been that bad?
No. I feel like this whole notion of football boots are more expensive than they ever been. It's just a made up thing. If anything, over the last 3 years, they've been on a downward trend.
They have, and I think.
You can't factor limited stuff. I know Adi puts out these $350 limited boots that are just...
Which is ridiculous, by the way.
It's a lot of money for a football boot. I totally understand that. But he mentioned the Superfly. Superfly 1 was $350 retail. Superfly 2 and 3 was a $400 retail price for a regular colorway of a regular boot that anybody can go and buy. Not limited at all. That's ridiculous. That's insane. Right? And then you talk about when a lot of these mid-cut and laceless boots came out, they were retailing for $300, right? Now everything's dropping back to $275, $250. I was a little bit surprised that the low-cut Pred wasn't lower than $225, honestly. I thought they were going to charge a little bit less, which, whatever. given the hype around it makes sense.
I think that, yes, materials are better today than they were back then, but, everything today, more or less, in terms of technology and quality of materials is better than they were back in the day because we simply have access to better manufacturing technology. It's cheaper to make the really premium materials. I think that's just, technological evolution. So I think it's like if we look at the how do I say it, the complexity and the premiumness, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, the complexity and help me out here, the complexity of the materials, right?
Yeah.
Back then, relative to the time, I think it's more or less equal to where we are today. That's just a feeling I have.
Yeah. I think what the modern football boot industry is summed up by right now is proprietary technologies. And developing something that is exclusive to your brand can be expensive, whether you develop it in-house or whether you buy this technology from some other company that's not even associated with you. Both of those outcomes are going to be very expensive, right? So you look back in the 90s and pretty much everybody was just using kangaroo leather on a flagship model. That was it. Nike started this trend of synthetics, and that obviously that caught on. Everybody wanted to have their own proprietary synthetic. Then kind of the knits and textiles caught on. So I don't know. I think that from a material standpoint, I think that maybe the boots, if you're just talking about raw material, the boots are cheaper than what they used to be. But when you factor in the cost of development and testing and developing these proprietary technologies, plus you said the marketing is insane now compared to what it used to be. Before they were just buying a couple magazine ads and running a few commercials. Now they're paying everyone, it seems like, to advertise new products, right? So there's definitely more costs associated to marketing these brand new boots because there's so much more competition. That's the other thing people don't realize. When we were kids, Jay, what did Nike have? 3 lines, 2 lines?
Yeah, 2 lines.
And new boots would come out every 3 or 4 months. Like there wasn't new colorways every 2 weeks. Like think about how much more competition there is now,
It's
right?
insane, yeah.
It's nuts. I've said this to people countless times in the comment section. If you don't like the prices of these high-end boots, stop buying them. And the lack of sales will cause these companies to lower the prices.
Exactly.
That's how it goes. But if you continue to buy them at $250, then what incentive do they have to lower the price?
And that must be one of the reasons that Adidas lowered their prices of the Plus models from 300 euros to 280, because they just realized not enough people were buying them, and they were buying the Nike boots that were cheaper instead. So it's the market mechanism, and that's the way it goes. Now, to not ramble on completely about this, I think there was also something in the question about the Teijin uppers on the materials, right?
Yes.
And how they were better. And I agree, there's definitely, I would also love to see a Teijin Mercurial Vapor 13 again. I love the Vapor 11s. Probably my favorite Mercurials ever. Like, utterly amazing football boot. But then again, maybe that was the time of Teijin, and times have moved on. I'm not saying I would personally take the Vapor 11s, but I also am a bit of a like nostalgia animal. And maybe you would be too. I'm just saying, just maybe it's for the better, and times have changed, and Flyknit and knitted materials are actually better in terms of giving you that very personal custom fit. I think it's the way forward, man.
I agree to a point with that. I still think that we have pretty good technology to make some impressive synthetic materials. It's just the market seems to be trending towards anything that looks or feels kind of like a sock, right? And what's also even funny about saying Teijin synthetic is it's not very specific, because Teijin synthetic was featured on Vapor 3 up to Vapor 11. Teijin was basically just the company making the material.
Yeah.
Every like specific material itself on every generation of Mercurial was a different Teijin synthetic, even though it technically had the same name, right? So I think there were better and worse synthetics throughout the years on different Mercurial models. Everyone has their favorite, but no, I definitely think that, like, honestly, and then correct me, I mean, I'm curious if you agree with me, I would love to see that this Predator 20.1 in a hybrid touch synthetic. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'd rather have it fusion skin, but hybrid touch would be very, very amazing. The hybrid touch variation that they put on the Soundbite 50 Adi series from 14
would be great. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, absolutely perfect. So yes, I would. I love the Taishin upper we see on, and I'm just saying it again. I'm generalizing, I know, but it's easy to understand. I love the upper on the Vapor 11s, but it's also okay that it's a thing of the past. We're moving forward.
Yeah. Let's end it there. I think that's enough.
I'm excited. Yeah, that's cool. That's wicked. Yeah, anyway, guys, if you have any more questions that you would like us to answer and not completely butcher like we did with the last question, sorry about that, then let us know in the comment section right down below. We might bring them up in the next couple of podcast episodes. Also, if you have any questions about the Predator 20.1 low or the brand new Mizuno Morelia, you want us to go into more details than we did, don't be afraid to reach out, and we might answer you in the comment section if it's too long to ramble on in the next episode, or just bring it up. So if you want to interact, do it, because that's basically what we're here for. Now, if you enjoy said interaction, make sure to leave a like on the video, or leave a dislike if you hated it and never come back. And then also make sure that if you want to come back and subscribe to the channel, you can click the white bubble in the middle of the screen. You can go see what Josh is up to on his football side of things, at least, by subscribing to his channel over there. You can see what we do at Unisport by clicking the green bubble somewhere over here. And then finally, we'll see you next time in the Boot Nerds podcast. I'm going to give you a little boot ASMR before we leave. I'm JayMike, and I approve this message.
Later. Oh, that's real nice.
So there you go. Have a good one.